Hello, everyone. I am Lalit. I'm CEO and the co founder of Melody Consulting. We're the Salesforce and the Databricks partners. I have Ishmeet Kaur with me, who's a senior data engineer working with us in Melody Consulting. She's a Databricks and the Apache Spark specialist, also has the knowledge of AWS, Azure, and the big data. She also had the experience working with the Bank of America and the companies like Orange Business Services, where she also had a very good experience working with the enterprise solutions. All right, Ishmeet, welcome to this webinar.
Thank you so much, Lalit.
So let's start from the basics, Ishmeet. So everybody is talking about the Databricks today. So for someone who is hearing it for the first time, what exactly the Databricks is?
All right. So Databricks is unified analytics platform. So we can also say it like that somebody has to read TBs and GBs of data without worrying about the clusters or servers or anything like that, right? And someday if my data has a hike, so let us say that instead of 1 TB that I'm generally getting, it has gone up to 10 TBs. I don't have to worry about it. It will be scaled up itself, right? So apart from that, I can do all the processing there on that platform itself. I can do various transformations, I can do duplications and all these kind of things, and then finally provide my data to the business users. And those business users can actually go have a look at it and use it for various analytics purpose. Also, we have an option of using it, the dashboard, where we can actually see the KPIs and everything. And we
Mhm.
do also have an option of AI, integrating AI with all of these.
So what kind of a business problems do you think that the companies were already struggling with before having these kind of a model platforms like Databricks?
All right. So right before we move to cloud, or maybe say Azure or Databricks, we had various problems. One of them being like the data lived on various, other tools. So
Mhm.
the everything was not unified. The data was at some other place. We are processing it at some other place. So there was a lot of transfer of data that was required. Apart
Mhm.
from that, it was very expensive infrastructure. So if you remember that we were using Hadoop at some point of time, it's like very expensive. You have to set up, you need a different person who is the administrator of Hadoop. So all those things were quite expensive. Apart from that, another thing that is coming to my mind is the AI adaptation. So here in Databricks, it's very easy for somebody that yes, they can go integrated with the AI. But in the previous systems, it was not the systems. It was not possible. Apart from that, there was a lot of duplicacy of data. For a particular set of data, it was lying in various places, and that was something was using a lot of storage. Basically, the storage was getting wasted, and yes, and all of this was resulting into very slow analytics. So today, if I just want to check that, okay, how many people of this particular thing are living in this particular city, I can directly go to my Databricks, do the query, and get the answers. But here, the if we were using some other processes, the previous ones, so because of that slow analytics, it was impacting our business. So
Yeah. Okay. So one more thing that's coming onto my mind. So if we go little bit deeper into the technical aspects. So at the high level, how should the organizations think about the Databricks architecture? What do you have to say about it?
all right. So maybe we can talk about a very high level architecture of Databricks, and maybe I can start with. In my mind, I have divided into various points. So I am
Mm-hmm.
going to start with the sources.
Mm-hmm.
So now, when we talk about source, that basically means ingesting the data. Now, what all options do I have to ingest data? I
Mm-hmm.
can the most famous ones are, we have the data that is existing in either Azure, GCP,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
AWS. So this is
Yes.
one very famous source that we can actually read the data from. Apart from these, the less known one or maybe the less used ones are directly integrating it with the Salesforce, Google Sheets, APIs, some other
Mm.
databases, maybe just like SQL or something. And yes, files. So maybe a CSV, a Parquet, or a Avro format, any of the files. And
Yes.
yes, another one is streaming data. So let us say we have a transactional data that is coming. So that is one source that we can actually use the data. So this is the source layer, basically what we call as it as the source layer. So
Yeah.
we can ingest data in any of these forms. After this layer comes the ingestion layer. So as I was already talking about streaming, the second one we have is a batch. So what we normally use that, okay, there's some job that I need to run every day, so that is a batch job. There's a streaming job that we already talked about. Then there's a autoloader. So that basically means whenever I fix a time, a particular time, so at that point of time it is going to run and auto load one of my layers. I'll come about talk about those layers in the later stage. So this is what we call it as a ingestion layer for Databricks. The next one is storage layer. So now I'm reading my data. Now it
Mm-hmm.
has to be stored at some place. So now the famous ones or the most talked about are one is delta tables. So nowadays it is the maximum used one. We can talk more about delta tables at a later stage. Then we have unity catalog managed storage. So that is directly indirectly all the things that are there. Maybe there's a table. It is going to store the data in any of the cloud formats that I have provided. So this is one thing. So this is mostly about the storage layer. Then the fourth point, that is it is the architecture, that how I'm going to process my data, which I am going to divide into three parts. That is Mendelian architecture, what we call as bronze, silver, and gold. So when I talk about bronze layer, it is nothing. Just to if it just talk about it, it's nothing but exact replica of source. So let us say in my Azure, there's maybe let us take an example that I have my one of the tables or maybe some file or any data in Azure. So my bronze is going to be exact replica of that source. Now, why do we have it like this? Is that bronze is mainly used for the audit purpose and just to track the history. So let us say that I got the data in bronze and I processed it and everything happened. But then some error occurred and I have lost all the data. So I can actually go back to bronze and retain my data. So this
Got
is
it.
the thing
Got
about
it.
bronze. Yeah.
Got
And once the data is in bronze, we are going to read that, process it. Now, when I say process it, that basically means we have to do various validations, deduplications, transformations, and n number of things that I can perform, and then finally put my data into the silver layer. And once we have done that, the third point is mainly what we do into the gold layer is aggregations. Basically we have to create the data as per the business need. So whatever they want any data as per any KPI, or they want to see a particular thing, they want us to aggregate a particular field, or they want us to find the maximum minimum average of we can do anything and then provide that data into the gold layer. So the gold layer is the final layer of Databricks. But then finally we have to provide it to the business users. I can they can refer to the gold table, or we also have an option of maybe we can export the data into Oracle. We can export the data as the form of in the form of a Google Sheet. Any and everything is possible in this, so that the users or the business users are comfortable looking at the data, because they are, if they are not technical, they don't want to query, so that we can provide the data to them in the form of Excel sheets, or even CSV sheets or anything like that.
it.
And the fifth layer that is coming into my mind is the orchestration. So that basically means the workflows or the jobs. So now I have designed my pipeline, but then I'm not going to manually run it every day, or I don't want a human interference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a pipeline. I'm going to fix a time that, okay, every morning at 11 a.m. it should run. So this is something I can orchestrate. And then it's like that I have to tell, okay, this is the particular notebook, after that you run this particular notebook. This is something I have to actually feed in the system. And then without my interference, it is going to, from end to end, the pipeline is going to run on its own, and then finally provide the data into the end target tables or the destination that we provide.
Got
And
it.
yes, the last layer which I've already talked about is the consumption layer. That basically means that the layer where the business is going to look at the data. We do have an option of Power BI, Tableau, Databricks, a number of things, as
And it
I
can
talked about.
and it
So
can be
yes,
the AI applications or maybe the end
absolutely,
use. Yeah, got it. Okay,
absolutely.
so it's much more complex than I thought earlier, right? The way that you actually layered it down a bit. So that was very helpful indeed. So good to know. All right. One thing that you were talking again and again was storage also in between. So that's somewhere even my favorite question, and I generally get this thing from my leads as well. Where does the actual customer data stay in the Databricks environment?
All right. To many of us, it looks like that it might be stored with a Databricks or something like that, but no, it doesn't
Mhm.
happen like that. This data is actually stored in any of the cloud platform that I had preferred. So how it
Mhm.
happens is the Databricks, it actually points to a particular location. Now that particular location is pointing to an external cloud storage. So for
Mhm.
let us talk about the current project that I am working on. So now I'm using AWS. So whatever I'm storing, it is going and lying in the AWS storage. But it looks like it will be there in a database, but it is not. We also call it a mounting. It is also
So
known
you
as
mean to
mounting.
say that if I talk about the bronze layer, which you told it is a kind of a base layer or a similar layer to the sources, but when we talk about the bronze layer, that bronze layer is having the tables in the database, maybe outside the Databricks itself, but ultimately is going to be the mounting, that what we are doing, that this is a memory or this is a storage that what they're going to be using for all the purposes, logging, processing, whatever the logics that what we need to run with the code or something. So those things will everything will going to be still on the external database, right?
Absolutely. Now,
Okay.
another thing is that when I create a table, so the
Hmm.
schema, the table information, that does
Hmm.
lie within, because that is something which is managed by Databricks. So that information is with Databricks, but the storage location, that means the backend data, that is something which lies with the cloud storage. So that
Got
is
it.
as per my
So
preference.
it means somewhere it's always gonna be even a kind of a very safe option for any of the companies which are very restricted to that where my data is going to be stored, or it's going to be like there are many companies which want their data to be very specified in some kind of a country's restricted areas or something. That's where they can maintain their servers as per their needs, so that security and the data will never gonna be issue for them, right?
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
absolutely. We have
Yeah.
various options of
Mhm.
selecting that how I'm going to store my data. So for somebody who's not that concerned about data, I mean, oh, data is always important, but still, it's all about spending the money on it. So we do have various options. So somebody who says that okay, this data is super important and we cannot live without it, won't be possible. If we lose it, then we can they can actually invest in a plan where the most expensive plan, and they can store their data in that. So the chances, even in the cases of the natural calamity, it is going to be minimum. So they will not lose their data because the data is going to lie within various geographical locations. So in case some XYZ country, there's some natural calamity, we are going to have a copy in some other location also. So it is divided
Got it.
it in such a way.
And coming on to one of the very important concept of data breaks that you also covered in the first question, that data is going to be the bulk data is going to be processed in the data bricks. So if we talk about the compute, right, how does the data bricks process the massive amounts of the data efficiently? What does it do internally?
All right. So when we talk about the processing, so that
Mhm.
basically, why is it able to process that much kind of load? We have various reasons for that. One
Mhm.
thing is that this cluster is scalable. So today I had 10 records. Maybe let us take a very simple example. It is going to use only that much, execution power. But in case tomorrow there's a sudden hike of data, it is going to automatically scale the cluster. So this ways there is no wastage. So if I have invested in a plan which I have to give xyz rupees as per
Mhm.
cluster, so that ways my money is not getting wasted. This is one point. The second point is now it's not like that the server is going to utilize only x number of servers in parallel. So let us say I have 1 TB which needs to be processed. We don't know internally Databricks is using 100 servers in parallel. So this is something which it takes care of, that tomorrow if there is a lot of data, it will directly use a lot of parallel processing. So this is something it will do. The next thing is that it uses Photon engine, and comparatively, as compared to other engines, it is a very efficient engine. Apart from that, another concept is the query optimization. So, what actually happens in query optimization is, so let us say that I have given some query and I have told, in my code that, okay, you are going to join the data and then filter the data. So now the Databricks engine knows, okay, this is something bad which I am doing. So what it is going to do is it will first filter and then join. So this kind of brain, when it applies, and we will understand that having the data filtered first and then joining is going to save a lot of execution power, time also. So this is one thing why it is so optimized. And another new concept is the adaptive execution. So this is basically used when at the time of runtime. So this is mainly if there's a sudden data hike, it is going to act in such a way that it'll increase the number of executors or whatever needs to be done at the runtime. It is going to help us, and finally have a and it's going to have the optimized results.
Got it. Okay, that's interesting indeed. So you took some kind of a terms like clusters, auto scaling, serverless. What is clusters and what is how we can say that it's a serverless engines here?
All right, so maybe we can start with cluster.
Mhm.
Cluster is nothing but systems working in parallel. So a
Mhm.
set
Oh,
of systems, you and I, we are using a laptop. This is one system. All right, so let us say I have now, I'll put 10 laptops together. This is known as one cluster. So and why, what is the reason of doing this is, I need to perform one task. So now one laptop is going to take, let us say, 10 minutes. So now I'll be using those 10 laptops to perform one
so
task.
it's a kind of a
Additional,
parallel
I'll not.
processing concept that what we used to have with the servers as well. Got it. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So all of these are going to work parallelly. So it's just like one cook preparing one meal. Now it is like 10 cooks preparing one meal. So the time will be reduced in that manner. Maybe we'll not say exactly 1/10 because there is no, way we can actually measure that time. But yes, parallel processing is
And
there.
out of curiosity, because I'm breaking the question maybe in between, but out of curiosity, so when we increase the clusters in the Databricks, will we going to also increase the billings or something like because we are adding the servers to the Databricks, more and more servers means more and more costs. Is that something that
Absolutely.
goes? Oh, okay, got it.
Absolutely. Yes, that is going to incur you cost. But then that is where, it is beneficial that today, if I don't require that much clusters, I will not be charged for it. But let us say I'll only get a high data twice a month. So I don't have to pay it for the entire month. I'll just pay it twice. So whenever I'm getting high data volumes, only then I will have to pay that much charge. Otherwise, whatever the kind of cluster I'm using, uh, that is what how it is, adaptive auto scaling, that we call. So will have to only pay that much, whatever we are using. So yes, it
Got
is
it.
going to incur us cost.
So, if we and I think you also mentioned something called as auto scaling. What is auto scaling?
So that basically auto scaling basically means according to my load, we will increase or decrease the number of clusters.
Oh,
So this
that's
is
what
basically
we
what
talked
it
about.
means.
Yeah. So means the billings
Yes,
and everything is going to be, although is going to be optimized automatically. Like if I do not require the more clusters, that will going to be automatically reduced there.
absolutely,
Got it. Okay,
absolutely.
that's interesting. And why we call it a serverless compute here?
That is because initially, when we talk about the traditional systems, that is like Hadoop or something, at that point of time, it was our duty to have that whole system set up. Right. So now in this particular case, we shouldn't be worried about that. Okay, I need to get this much, execution. We'll have to, install the clusters and everything. So since we are not any more responsible for creating those cluster, we call it as a serverless system because we are not doing it. Initially, at backend, they are using the servers. It is, getting scaled itself. They are using it itself. So it is not our responsibility anymore to actually manage those clusters. So that is why it is called as a serverless system.
All right, Ishmi, thank you so much for all those insights. So one of my indeed my favorite question being at a place of running a kind of a technology company. So I always even ask myself and other people too. For you particularly, what do you think the data engineering and the tools like Databricks and the Snowflake? where they're going to transform in next 2 to 5 years, where they're going.
All right. So nowadays, the way the technology, the data engineering is
Mm-hmm.
evolving, I think there's a lot of it's changing very fast. So there's a lot of changes that I can actually see that is going to happen in the near future. Starting with the storage, the cloud storage. I think
Mm-hmm.
in next upcoming years, all the data that we are having, still there are various organizations that are still having on-premise data. All of them are going to adapt to cloud storage,
Mm-hmm.
and because the way the cloud storage is integrated to various platforms, it's anyways going to improve a lot in upcoming time. So yes, this is one thing which I believe. And if I talk about the architecture, I think that data lakehouse will become the by default architecture. Talking about pipelines, we still have places, we still have circumstances that our pipelines are failing. So I think it's going to become even more robust, so that whatever is happening, there is no failure chances that we can actually make out, or maybe we can have it that foolproof that it is not failing at any time. Apart from that, we will not be having any kind of manual runs or human interference when we talk about either triggering our pipelines or starting our pipelines, or maybe anyway. So it's all going to be all automatic, it's going to be automated. And apart from that, uh, we still have batch datas, various times we are processing. So I think everything is going to switch to real time data. So even now, I think, as per my experience, I think that the world is divided into batch and 50-50%. So I think it is all going to switch to real time data. Each time something happens, and the same time it is processed, and then finally we are able to see the results. And another very important thing is data security. So what I believe, still we have various loopholes at various points. I'm not talking about all the organizations, yes, but some of them. So the data security is going to be enhanced, and at various levels. It's just not like somebody actually will go and see from my data lake or maybe one of the columns. So in all dimensions, we are going to implement such good security that it will be it will be not be possible for any chances of data leakage in my pipelines. Another thing that is coming to my mind is, till now only big enterprises are utilizing, or they're using Databricks. In the upcoming time, I think even small to medium enterprises will also start using
Yep.
Databricks, and take that they can process the data and take the data, process it, and then they're going to do that analysis and use it for analytics purpose. So yes, and the way the volume of data is increasing, I think this is the only way out, that we all have to switch to a cloud. So this is what I feel.
And I think very well said on to that part, because recently was our experiences were also coming from the same background, that like 1 year back we used to get the data engineering questions, queries, or the queries related to the Databricks, these kind of, I mean, the data processing platforms from the enterprises. But even the medium sized companies have started talking around those things. We are getting the leads, we are getting the queries from these kind of companies as well, which I really see as a transformation, like what happened with the cloud, what happened with the AI. Now it's happening with the data, because people are now realizing that the data is now becoming more relevant for them to process any of the things that what they want to do in the future with their organization. That's well said.
Absolutely.
All right, Ishmeet, our time is up for today. Definitely, it was a very informational, and it was definitely a deep down towards Databricks architecture, what we heard from you. Looking forward to have another session soon with you, where we can cover a few more topics from the Databricks and the data engineering. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I'll look forward to it. Thank you.